Kristi Noem has full charge of FEMA. And of course, she's taking all those funds and putting them to ICE. So in the face of a natural disaster, here's what we're finding out.
So according to 4 officials inside FEMA, that federal response may not have been as fast as it might have been. They say that a new rule that any expenditure over $100,000 needed sign-off from Secretary Noem slowed the federal response. These sources tell us that FEMA's deployment of urban search and rescue teams, which are typically deployed in anticipation they might be needed, instead was delayed until Monday, 3 days after the flood.
Okay, here's the thing. They were all the Republicans, Trump, Musk, they were rah-rah to cut everything in the weather departments of the United States government that could have helped prevent this. And now they're slow on their ass because Kristi Noem's got all of her plainclothes, mask-wearing ICE agents rounding up people and sending them to Alligator Alcatraz. It's gross. These things were preventable. The government could have helped more. It just makes me sick.
All of this is a consequence of exactly what Project 2025 wanted. Dismantle the National Weather Service, dismantle FEMA. I'm surprised zero that she hesitated in rolling out a FEMA response, because her boss has said that he wants to defund FEMA entirely. So the expectation that MAGA voters have that FEMA is going to arrive is a fool's errand on their part, because Project 2025 was there the whole time. They were warned exactly what Project 2025 wants to do. They want to gut all social services, privatize everything, and they want basically a ruling class and then the majority of the rest of Americans to be peasants. And so what I ask is, MAGA Christians, are you good with Donald Trump and all the Project 2025 people and all the cross-wearing women prioritizing profits over little kids drowning at a church camp in Texas? Because that's what you voted for, period.
It's absolutely what they voted for. And then while all this is going on, and Kristi Noem has her gubernatorial photo crowdsourcing for the pick, this is what the Department of Homeland Security posted. And I found this disgusting. Fire up the deportation plane. And it has a skeleton with, like, I guess, barbells. And it says, "My body is a machine that turns ICE funding into mass deportations." And that is just, is that cruelty porn? Or like Stephen Miller's of the world? Are they hot and bothered over this? I mean, this is just like, are you fucking kidding me? That's an official government account. And Kristi Noem killed her puppy. I know that. But it grosses me out.
Well, I think that this goes to the larger response from the Democrats to start addressing MAGA Christians and calling them out. You say that you're for faith, family, and freedom. So let's talk about your faith. Is your faith as such that you see stuff like this and the "what would Jesus do?" that pops up as one of the answers? And we have to start calling out MAGA Christians, because at the base of the MAGA movement are a bunch of religious Bible thumpers, and they have to be called out. Unless politicians start speaking their language, they're going to keep doing this stuff with impunity. And now they can start from the pulpit preaching about politics, which they have been all along. But this is where I want to know, as somebody who has to live in the God-forsaken Bible Belt, and I live around the arrogance of these white MAGA Christians, explain to me, like I'm 5, how you are for this and also for the central character of the Bible, Jesus Christ. Explain it to me like I'm 5 years old, because they fucking can't, and nobody ever holds those hypocrites to account. The Democratic Party isn't doing it, but there is one guy, I forget his name. He's a state representative. It's
Texas, right?
Yes, Tellerico or something. He's excellent. And another person that's done a good job of this is Andy Beshear. Andy Beshear spoke about not bullying trans kids and not giving up on their rights and their rights to have equality. And he won in a red state as governor by not abandoning human rights. So there's a lesson there. But why the majority of Democrats kind of stay like hands off of religion when they've been using religion for decades? And you came from this community.
Right. I know.
I mean, this is the one thing that you can call them out on and say, I'm not talking about politics. I'm talking about your faith. How do you, as a person who says Jesus Christ is my Lord and personal Savior, how do you support that shit? How do you support that level of cruelty? Nobody confronts these Christians with that. And it just blows my mind.
It seems like it would be an absolute layup. Okay, moving on to another incompetent member of Trump's cabinet. So Trump, which I don't know why we're not talking about the 25th Amendment, he says he has no idea who stopped munitions to Ukraine. He says he doesn't know anything about the toxic chemicals that...
Hang on. I want to ask you about the munitions to Ukraine, because I've seen this in the news the last few days. Didn't we know this? And he's saying he didn't know, and that Hegseth kept it from him, or I'm making that up. I felt like I saw a report. Trump administration is stopping support to Ukraine.
Well, here, pop it up. Trump in his cabinet meeting said straight up, he did not know that they had stopped sending munitions to Ukraine. And then we see this report. CNN has 5 sources saying Hegseth stopped weapon shipments to Ukraine on his own without telling Trump or the Secretary of State, National Security Advisor Marco Rubio, or Special Ukrainian Envoy General Keith Kellogg. It is the 3rd time he has done this. So the answer to the question is, I think Pete Hegseth went rogue.
But okay, here's my question. And maybe there's just been so much fuckery in the news cycles, but I felt like a month ago or something, we heard that the United States was no longer going to send munitions to Ukraine. And maybe I'm making that up, but I felt like that was already in the news cycle. And then now I see that Trump had no idea. So my thing is that a cover up? Because haven't we known that the United States wasn't helping Ukraine anymore, especially after the whole confrontation in the Oval Office with the Ukrainian president?
He's still been sending stuff. He talks about it, but he's still been sending stuff. But Pete Hegseth, he's absolutely incompetent and going rogue. And something else is he's really pissing off our allies from Australia and the UK, because he's making like unilateral moves without notice to this AUKUS, which is the UK, US, and Australian Submarine Pact. And he's just going rogue on this too. And he put that up, Kylie. So Pentagon's top policy chief has reportedly blindsided senior administration officials and foreign allies with a series of rogue foreign policy moves. And here's the deal. You've got an untreated alcoholic that is putting war plans on the signal chat, and he's going rogue, and that's terrifying. He's fired generals. His biggest job is he's renaming ships that were named after women and black people and gay people. He's renaming them. And he's also fucking up the world order on top of everything else he's done. But of course, Trump doesn't give a shit. He doesn't give a shit about anything but enriching himself. But yeah, so Pete Hegseth's going rogue.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of this is autocrats like hiring abusers.
That's a great point.
They like hiring people that abuse women, abuse the law, because they show we're above it. You're below it and we're all above it. So any notion that, Trump is going to like right the ship or do anything here. I'm like, he appointed this guy. I mean, this is not a serious person. We're no longer a serious government. We no longer live in a serious country. We just sit here and bullshit about it. But that's the remaining. We live in a country where the people that went out and voted in the last election are crazy ass Bible thumpers that are planning for the rapture and support this shit. I mean, seriously, that's what this is. It's nuts.
Well, and while they're doing all of these things to break down the American brand, to reduce the value of a dollar, they're God and guns, the military, we back the blue, rah military, we support our veterans. Here you go from Rolling Stone. Rolling Stone reports the Trump administration never cared about saving money. They never cared about veterans, active duty military members, or their families. They care about one thing: making billionaires richer at the expense of veterans and taxpayers alike. And the headline is, Trump is cutting tens of thousands of veteran affairs workers. The president backed off his plan to fire 83,000 workers at the Department of Veteran Affairs. but his administration is still getting rid of tons. These are the same people that cut off the funding to the VA hospitals. They shut down the suicide hotline for veterans. I think it's back up now. But to say that Donald Trump and MAGA and all these rah-rah military people, they never fucking vote for veterans. They want them to go. They want them to die. They want them to build the biggest bomb, but they do not want to support their mental health or their physical health or their, repatriation back into society. And it's fucking gross.
You know what's amazing to me, though? Like the military, by and large, voted for him.
They did.
Active military. And so you have to address this culture of masculinity and what I think is happening in the manosphere and the turning your nose at facts and data and all of that stuff combining, because there are some groups. There's a group that I follow. I think they're called votevets.org that I follow online. And they're a group of progressive veterans that are always messaging the Republican Party's failures when it comes to veterans issues. But the thing is, for a lot of American people, and this is really pretty sad, when they see Trump go and just like hug the American flag, and then you go out to these rallies, like our friends, the Good Liars, go out to these rallies. Why do you like Trump so much? Don't you think this is crazy? Well, I think all that stuff's crazy, but I like him because he really loves America. It's this real superficial form of patriotism, that goes along with their lack of intellectual curiosity, that he can just provide the optics of dry humping a flag. And they're like, I'm good with this guy. And they seek any sort of criticism of the country, and albeit a lot of it constructive criticism, like how can we be better? How can we expand rights? That has been properly messaged through the right-wing media echo chamber as anti-patriotic, instead of actually pro-growth, pro-America. Actually, these are ways to improve. And they see that through the lens that somehow, if you criticize the country, they see it in the same lens as like they would if I said, Christianity's stupid, that somehow I'm blasphemous. But these people are real. Again, they're guided by fear of criticism, fear of objective thinking, fear of critical thinking. And so they just accept the lowest hanging fruit on face value at all times.
Well, and then they have a right-wing media echo chamber that reinforces that. All right, that's all we have right now. Please subscribe and like this video.